Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Rocky Brand live stream. Hopefully everything is working fine. As usual, last minute preparations. As you can see, I figured out how to use the uh, the scheduling facility in YouTube, so I was able to have the thumbnail there saying when the stream was going to start. Normally, up till now, I've just basically set everything up and just hit go, and it's all a bit hectic. So it's quite good to have that there. And yeah, I was able to set up the new audio logo music, which was created for me, which we met the guys last time. So that's all working. Hopefully, it'll work on the outro as well. I actually couldn't hear it on my system when I set it up, so I was just kind of keeping my fingers crossed that it would work. So it's good to hear that David and Lise have said that it is working. So, hey Fuad, thanks for joining. Hey Nishka, hiya. So yeah, so every week in the lead up to live stream time, I need to think of a topic to talk about, and sometimes it's easy and sometimes I find it difficult. I'm not sure what to discuss. And something that, just generally from some of the discussions which we've had. Hey Jeff, there's your wave. One of the things that we discussed in the Discord group is, we've got a well-being channel, kind of a mental well-being channel in there, where people can just, if they're having struggles or problems, they can just, they can either just, type a message just to, get it out of their head and out somewhere, or they can write something with the expectation of getting some feedback or help or advice. And there's no pressure to do that, but some people have taken advantage of that channel and, used it to hopefully make themselves feel a bit better. And so, yeah, just, one of the things that I'd always assumed growing up as a lad, getting into whatever industry, because that's the thing, the topic of this stream is Imposter Syndrome and Burnout. But, it doesn't just affect, designers, it affects people in all industries and, of all ages. But as I was in different studios and things, and looking up to the people who were in charge, who, I always felt that, they had it all together. They'd worked hard, and, they'd made it to whatever studio manager, creative director, CEO, whatever, and they had it all sorted, and it was all just dead easy for them. They just made everything look so simple and straightforward. And I just thought that's how it would be, as you get more experienced, as you get older and you work your way up the ladder, that's how it is. But then as I got older and I got more experienced, I found myself starting to have more doubts about things, about my ability to do stuff. Is this good enough? Am I fast enough? Am I charging enough? Am I charging too much? Just all of these doubts start to creep in the more experienced I got, and it kind of came and went in waves. There would be times where I'd feel absolutely fine and I'd be loving it and I'd be going, I love my job, this is so good. And then there are other times where I just found it really stressful, just so much pressure. And I knew I was I knew that a lot of the pressure was internal. It was coming from myself. I think a lot of designers are perfectionists to an extent. And so the perfectionism in me to make sure everything was the best that it could be, and done in the best time scale possible. Everything had to be done the best way. Piled pressure on, and then if you've got sort of imposter syndrome as well, kind of fighting with the perfectionism, saying it's not good enough. Everything that's happened for you to get to where you are now is luck. You've just been really lucky. It's lucky that you met this person. It's lucky that you managed to get that job. It's lucky you managed to win that project. All luck. And that's how I spoke to myself. Was I was lucky to be where I am. Never really thinking or you looking carefully that no, it's not luck. I've worked very hard for this. I've met the right people. I've put myself into the right situations. The work I've created has captured the attention of the right people, but that's often not the way that we think. We just, or people who have imposter syndrome, it's always luck. And I've kind of been looking, around articles and things, to sort of just learn a little bit more about it. And, and that's the thing I want to kind of stress on this stream here, is that I'm not an expert in sort of treatments or cure or whatever, for imposter syndrome. I don't think there's a cure as such for imposter syndrome. I think it's more about skills that you would learn to kind of realize the way of thinking that you're in. So I just want to, kind of want to caveat this stream for anyone who's watching, right now live or decides to watch it on the replay, is I just want to kind of talk about my experiences. And I found an article online that I'd like to kind of go through together, and another web page that just has, sort of nine tips for dealing with imposter syndrome. And I mentioned as well that I've called this stream, as Imposter Syndrome and Burnout. And the burnout just comes as a secondary effect to the pressure that we put on ourselves through the imposter syndrome thinking and the perfectionism that, because we think everything's lucky, and we're like we're going to get found out. That's one of the things of imposter syndrome as well. The feeling of being found out, that you're a fraud, that you've just staggered your way forward through luck, and but at any moment someone's going to call you out as being a fraud. And so what we do is we work even harder, we work longer hours, we put ourselves under more pressure to kind of almost, it's like two routes. It's to kind of prove that you're not a fraud, I suppose, but internally you're doing it almost, it's like you're doing it to kind of make sure you don't get found out to be a fraud. So there's that internal thinking, there's you're negatively speaking to yourself and actually thinking that you are a fraud. And so you need to do all of this work and effort to hide from the world that you're a fraud. But you're not a fraud. And this is the weird thing. This is where it kind of, it becomes, in a way for me, it becomes humorous. Humorous sometimes so much that, you cry about it, but it's like I'm doing now, I can help people I can kind of see if they've got imposter syndrome going on or perfectionism, or if they're very close to burnout, because I've been through burnout myself, and you can see all the signs, and you can help guide them and help them get through that, and kind of take the pressure off and give them guidance and tips and stuff to do. But when it comes to ourselves, the self-care that we try to teach others, we often don't give to ourselves. I don't know, it's not, I don't think it's, for me anyway, it's not because I don't feel worthy of that, and not that I don't think I deserve the self-care, but I think the imposter syndrome kind of takes over and goes, yeah, but they're different. I look at other people differently to myself. I'll go, yeah, what they can't see is they can't see that it's not luck. They can't see that they've worked really hard, that their portfolio is amazing, or that they're a good networker, or they're great at communications. How can they not see that? And I can help them to see that, but then I can't do it for myself. And so the lesson in that is that, you can't really combat imposter syndrome on your own. You need to have others who can help. You see it, we as designers, especially as logo designers and brand designers and brand strategists, a lot of us use that phrase of when we're working with clients and we're trying to help them develop their brand a bit more, and we use the phrase, you can't see the label because you're inside the jar. It's the same with imposter syndrome, I feel anyway. Same with imposter syndrome, in that, if you're in it, you just can't see what everyone else sees about you. And so the narrative that you give yourself isn't the same as what everyone else sees. And so you need to surround yourself with people who can, tell you, that what you're saying isn't true. And and they can help kind of guide you through all of your achievements, and it's those achievements that have got you to where you've gotten to. It's not luck, it's not a lottery that you're just pulling, you're pulling the winning number every now and again, and that's what's moving you forward in life. I just want to quickly check up on the chat here. Hey, person, how are you? Great to see you here. David saying, interesting topic today. I've had imposter syndrome all my life and everything I've undertaken. I always recall the inspiring line, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And Lee's is saying, part of it is accepting that you don't see all the luck successful people have had. You need to work hard to make that luck actually lead somewhere, though. And feeling like an imposter is probably the most accurate indicator that you're not. I think that what you say there at the end is deep, and it's probably true. I think it's probably true. I think the people who have imposter syndrome are the people who are the hardest upon themselves and are probably the hardest workers, the ones who want to do the best, the ones who want to achieve and, go somewhere and do good things. But we're also the ones that beat ourselves up the most and don't listen. So I think that's a really good point that you've made there, Lise. So for me, where I'm at, I'm getting on in years now. But where I'm at, sort of 48, being a designer for 20 plus years, have achieved quite a bit. When I look back and kind of look at my journey, there's lots of ups and downs and barriers and things that that you get across, but it's very easy to forget all that, and you pretty much just live in the moment, and it's like you almost forget everything that you've done to get to where you are, and so you still in your mind are almost like that very young new designer who's been thrust into sort of a position of expertise, of experience, of knowledge, but you don't feel like you've done enough to be there, even though you have. And one of the things that I read was, it's like when, a lot of people who have imposter syndrome, they have it because the things that they're doing in their job and what it is that they're experts in, because they do it naturally and they don't really have to think about it, it feels like you're not working hard enough. But the whole point of learning and experience is that it does become natural, and so it does become almost second nature, and you can do things more quickly. And when I read that was like, wow, that's totally me, because I'm always, if I'm doing some stuff, like whether it's brand strategy work or whether I'm doing logo design sketches or conceptualizing, I'll often feel that I'm not doing enough work, I'm not working hard enough on it. Oh, I've come up with that concept far too quickly. Even if I think that that concept is the right one for that client, because I've been able to come up with it quite quickly, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to do more hours. This can't be right. I need to work harder. But the whole point of having 25 years experience is that I am able to kind of sort of shortcut a lot of things. A lot of the things that I know just won't work, and there's no point in trying because it doesn't fit the brand. I can just move past them and not waste hours. And I found that really, really interesting. And that kind of described me, I thought, to a T. And what I want to do is I found this article from the BBC. Let's see. I've not. Let me just pop the chat code into here. Hopefully this will work. Okay, because I forgot to put the chat into everyone. So there you go. So this is an article that I found, and these first sort of 5 paragraphs was like, so it's about I can't remember. Yeah, so I think it's about a lady called Fiona, and I thought it'd be interesting if we kind of just read through this, and anyone who's watching this, not necessarily the people who are here live, but how many people would kind of read this and go, that's me. Because I read this today, actually, because I was, I knew what we were talking about tonight. And I thought, I'm going to have a little look, just see if there's anything that, that could spark conversation for the stream. And this was actually one of the first things that I found. I'm just going to read through it. I know you guys can read, but I'm going to read through it anyway. So, feeling like you're bad at your job is miserable. Worse, it's also more likely to lead to professional burnout. People seem to think I'm doing okay, but I really don't think I am, says Fiona, who's a senior manager in her 40s, working in the construction industry in the UK. You're always thinking you could be doing better and that people must be doubting you. Fiona, who's been granted anonymity to protect her professional reputation, because that's the thing as well. It's like, even, I'm kind of jumping out of this again, but I've wanted to talk about it. Like I said, I've talked about this a little bit in the Discord group because it's kind of a closed off group. Doing this as a live stream kind of, I feel, opens myself up a little bit because there's still a stigma to it, and there's this feeling of if I show to the world that I'm not perfect, like I'm not I'm like perfect brand strategist, everything is fully focused, everything is great and, amazing, then, some clients may decide, I'm not going to work with him because, he's not entirely sure of himself or whatever. But it's kind of the opposite of that. I am sure and I know, and I'm good at what I do. But there is that thing of, should I be saying this in public? And I've got a knot in my stomach just now, just kind of realizing that this is live and this is going out there, and I am talking about the fact that I can suffer from imposter syndrome, feel burnout, perfectionism. I don't think people worry about people having perfectionism because I think they feel that they're going to get the best out of that person because they're a perfectionist. But the imposter syndrome thing, where people think they're a fraud and they've got somewhere by luck, again, that's my own inner monologue. That's not what people see. People see the results of the work I've done, and that's why they choose to work with me. People see the content that I've created for YouTube and watch that and understand I have knowledge and want to work with me. But I can kind of understand why Fiona has decided to kind of hide her identity in here, because she feels that if people, felt that she wasn't sure of herself, that she might not be the best fit for the job, and she could actually be put in her, depending on the management structure, what the people are like at the top, they may decide, oh, she's not, not who we thought she was, and let her go. So I totally get that. I get why she's kind of, hiding her identity there. So she says she's been battling her career, spent her career battling imposter syndrome, the fear she doesn't truly deserve her success. Despite that I've got the position I'm in, I still don't believe in myself. Other people seem to, but I just don't feel it's warranted. The stress of constantly questioning herself has been compounded by the anxieties of the pandemic and the pressure of remote working, leaving Fiona feeling exhausted on a daily basis. Now, with high demand in her industry, she's feeling she's showing all the symptoms of burnout. She feels emotionally depleted and has started to question the whole point of work and the value that she brings when other people could do the job so much better than she can. Imposter syndrome is a known issue among professionals, but researchers are increasingly interested in the link Fiona has experienced between imposter syndrome and that other modern career malaise, burnout. As the workplace undergoes a period of rapid change, understanding how these two conditions feed into each other and what can be done to prevent them destabilising careers will be critical for both employee well-being and retention. I'm not going to go through the rest of this article, but what I can do actually is if anyone wants to read that, I'll pop the link into the chat box in case people want to bookmark that for later. I just find it really interesting, and find myself nodding my head at a lot of the stuff that Fiona had said there. And I think one of the things that kind of comes to me is the exhaustion. It's just the constant fighting through the perfectionism and the imposter syndrome and the belief, and you're just mentally exhausted. And that, and I know I've gone through waves of that. There's like waves of, where you're feeling great about everything. Like everything's falling into place. You've got that great client you're working with, and the money's good, and everything just feels great. And then the other times, none of that matters, and it's like the kind of the fraudulent chat starts to come back in. And so, like I mentioned, let's have a quick look at the chat, see some stuff here. Andrew's saying, I know I'm good at what I do, but I feel like it's too easy, so I mustn't know anything. Exactly. It's a weird thing. I don't know if the phrase curse of knowledge is the right phrase to use there, but essentially it just means, the curse of knowledge is that, you become so educated in it and you forget that, others don't know that. I'm maybe not using curse of knowledge correctly, but I know what you're saying about, everything just becomes so natural. And I don't want to say easy to do, because the jobs they're not easy to do, but they become more natural, and you know what ways to do things in a much more efficient way, and you've got a lot of knowledge that you can bring to it, whereas 5-10 years before you wouldn't, and it would take you a long time because you're having to find everything out, but we forget that we need to that we bring all that into ourselves. David's saying, not listening. I know I have imposter syndrome, but I love listening because the more you listen, the less you feel like an imposter because knowledge has been acquired. Not listening in inverted commas, to quote Call. Jeff saying, when you do what you're passionate about, it seems to come easy, but to others, they couldn't do what I do, in my opinion. Yeah, I think there's that as well, Jeff. It's like, when I'm, working with clients and I'm talking about certain things, sometimes you're just like, why am I even saying this? They, they know this already, or, this is basic stuff. They'll know, but quite often they don't. And when you can say something which you think is it feels obvious, but it's a game changer to the client because they've just not, it might be a question. I'll ask them a question, about their brand, and it's just a simple question, but it's a question that they've never asked of themselves or anyone else has asked them. And just having to think about that can completely change their way of thinking about their brand. And that's a simple tool, is to have the right questions, but it's knowing the right questions to ask, and not everyone knows that, but we think they do. And so again, you think it's just, oh, anyone could do my job, anyone could do this, everyone knows this, and that negative talk starts to come back in again. Lisa's saying, the fact that you're willing to share this to help others going through this is great. Anyone hypothetically thinking any less of you for it is someone you shouldn't want to work with. Yeah, and there's that. That's exactly it as well, Lisa. I'm kind of, I wish I'd had this way of thinking a lot earlier in my career. I'm very much a people pleaser, but I'm being more selective these days on the people pleasing. Because that gets you can get you into kind of real trouble, just working with people that you really shouldn't be working with. So yeah, if someone doesn't want to work with me because they don't feel like I'm like perfect, then that's fine. I work with clients. I've got clients who are very, very good clients, some of them quite long term, and I know for a fact that they're very open with their teams about their mental health, and when they're not feeling good, and they will post and say, hey, they'll jump into Slack and say, hey, I'm not having a good day, just not in the right headspace. And that's, I think that's a really good way to approach things, because it just lets everyone know that, nobody's perfect, but everyone's there to support you. I think that generates a much better culture of support by management and people who are, in places of, let's say power, who are in charge. If those people are able to kind of come out and say, I'm not doing good today, I need some time, just to let you know, so I'm going to take the day off, I trust you guys are all great at what you do, and I will be back, I just need some time. And that really helps the rest of the team to know that they can be open and talk about how they're feeling, and that to me builds a much stronger team. It doesn't build a weaker team of people who are, falling apart. That's not what happens. Everyone becomes stronger for it. The places where I find, for me personally, like in terms of business culture, the worst ones were where people were scared to say things, and it was just horrible environment. And it was one of those environments that made me start up on my own, because it was just so brutally bad, that everyone was walking on eggshells because nobody wanted to say anything. So I think openness goes a long way. And I'm glad to see more and more places are opening like that, are allowing people to be open in that way. Dave's saying, as a musician, part of the problem is that young people are bombarded with the idea that you have to be the best, and if you're not the best, then you're nothing, which is total bollocks. I agree, that's total bollocks. Jenkins is saying, I feel this topic was handpicked for me. Honestly, it wasn't. I think that's the thing with this topic. There's a lot of people who'll be thinking this is aimed directly at me, because so many of us feel this way and cope with these things, that, like me reading this article and going, I am Fiona. To me, it just shows that we are all so much closer than we think we are, because we've been taught to hide weakness, or what's seen to be weakness. And so nobody says that they're not. Oh yeah, ask them, how you doing? I'm fine. Using fine's probably a good indicator that someone isn't. So we're kind of all taught to be that way, for fear of, for many people, for fear of losing their position when it comes to maybe promotion, that they'll be looked over because the guy who's, or the woman or whoever is saying, yeah, I'm great at this, but the other person who's probably better at them in terms of skill, knowledge, and expertise has been open enough to say, there's some times where I'm just not doing. I've got a bit of imposter syndrome. I'm not feeling like, and they feel that they'll get stepped over. And I think we'd all be silly to think that doesn't happen. I'm pretty sure it does. Julian's saying, Julian's having a conversation with David there. Lee saying, did making educational videos help you at all? You're actively working with basics. That may feel hardly worth mentioning to you, and they were so helpful to others. Making the videos definitely helped me structure my own knowledge, because you have to kind of, the stuff that you do naturally, sort of as a habit, like muscle memory, when you have to create videos and content for other people to learn from, you have to structure it and deliver it in a way that makes sense. Because if I did a lot of stuff just based on how I do things, I wouldn't be saying very much, because I can jump straight to what I need to do, and anyone watching would just be like, whoa, how? And I'm sure you've all, I know I have, I'm sure you've all maybe watched tutorial videos on how to do something, and the person who's showing you jumps to and starts doing things. Let's say it's something in Photoshop or Illustrator, and they start doing things, and they start to draw a shape, or they start, and you're like, whoa, what did they click on there to do the circle? They may just say, okay, what to do is create a star, create a triangle, right? So you just need to create a triangle, and they'll click on, and in Illustrator you click on the shape tool, and you have to choose the star icon, and then you type in the number 3 into the number of points, and that will give you a triangle. So let's say that suddenly they've got a triangle on their screen, and you're like, how did he do that? I don't know. And you're looking through what you thought he clicked on, you can only see a star, you can't see a triangle shape. It's things like that where you have to force yourself to go through everything step by step by step, because people don't know those, what you think is basic. Oh, people know how to create a triangle. Right, okay, so the first thing you do is you create a triangle. The first thing that person should have said, okay, the first thing we need to do is we need to create a triangle. Here's how you do that. You click on this, you do that, you type 3, and you will get a triangle. That's the way you should do it. And so that taught me a lesson in how to kind of, my thought process and how to do that. But I think what is a double-edged sword in that after doing that for sort of 3 to 4 years, you get used to that as well. And you start to forget that you've done 4, 5, 6 years of video recording, editing. Because it just becomes part of what you've done, and you don't give yourself much credit for it. And it takes kind of, other people, saying, wow, you've done a lot of work, you've got a lot of videos. And I think one of the other things about imposter syndrome is that people with imposter syndrome don't take compliments. They can't take compliments. They're like, no, it's, they just don't listen. They bat them away. They don't want, cause I'm like that. I know I'm like that. When someone says, oh, you've done an amazing job there on that, I'm just like, no, I'm just doing my job. I don't, and that's bad, because that's kind of, it's dismissive of the person who's offering the compliment, because I'm kind of batting it back at them. Maybe it's an ego thing. You don't want to feel like, I have done an amazing job. Yeah, I have, but I think it can often feel like ego to accept that. It's like, yeah, I am good. But where's the harm in accepting someone saying, you've done an amazing job on that, and go, thanks very much, I really appreciate it. I'm really proud of it. And I'm very much one of those people who's like, no, I'm just, I'm just doing my job, it's so, we can be so dismissive and negative about our own abilities, and that feeds into the language that we speak to ourselves in, which is not healthy. So it's about techniques and stuff of recognizing when you're doing that. And for me, I know that when I started to recognize that I was doing that, it really helped because I was able to kind of fight back. It's also like when I was learning to deliver logo concepts and stuff to clients, I used to say, and I still I catch myself doing it every now and again, is use the words I think, say, well, yeah, I think this is the best concept for you. Now, internally, what you're saying is, like, this is the best concept, but just saying I think leaves an element of doubt there. You think, you're not sure, so now I slow myself down and I use words like I believe that this is the best concept for you. I am sure that this is the best. More, concrete words. And I'm starting to use the same sort of, or trying to develop the same sort of training in terms of my negative thoughts on when I'm being unkind to myself. And it takes time, takes practice, and again, you can't do everything on your own. You still need people to support you and do that. But I want to just quickly jump over to here. I'll check the chat again. I thought the chat might go a little bit faster than it normally does each week, so let's see here. Nushka saying, I remember I had that exact question about the triangle. See, it's just, it can be so basic, but it can be very difficult to people, and you'll lose them. If you're trying to keep up with a tutorial, you're just a bit lost. And I find that if I'm doing a tutorial and the person keeps losing me, I'll try to find someone else to learn from, because I just feel like I'm, going to miss something important, and it gets frustrating as well, because you're trying to do, your thing isn't looking the same as theirs, but it's because you've not been taught something. Andrew's saying that he's impervious to compliments. I think, it's a good way of putting it as well. We just can't take them. And Julian's saying, yes, with my insecurity, I have difficulties with receiving compliments from clients when they're really happy with my work. Sometimes it doesn't feel like I earned it. So I feel like it's kind of speaking to myself when I'm reading these. It's like I'm typing these comments out to myself. So, hopefully it makes people feel better that, we're not alone, we're not all weirdos, but we do need to help each other to stop this way of thinking, to be able to accept the compliments and see them for what they are. You've done a great job, rather than, someone saying, oh, you've done a great job on that, and inside you may go, oh, thank you, but inside you're going, I probably could have done that better. I could have worked harder on that. That could probably be tweaked a bit. You're just constantly looking for ways to deflect the positivity. And whether it's on purpose, I don't think you're not doing it on purpose. It's just the way the brain works. It's weird. I think sometimes it's easier to go to a negative stance than a positive stance. Just be quite morose, and rather than happy and joyful, sometimes feels like that takes more work than just be like, oh, whatever. Jen is saying, "I did an amazing job." Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. David, you've probably got much better at design by teaching design. I don't know. I don't know about that. I definitely got better at the strategic side, like the thinking about design. What does it mean? Why am I doing it this way? Why am I not doing it another way? And that, before I started my YouTube channel, I wasn't doing brand strategy. I don't think. I'm trying to think back. 2016. If I was, it was minimal. It was minimal. But it was through doing the YouTube stuff and kind of getting more into logos and then starting to think about, let's talk about logos, let's talk about what logos mean, and really getting into the strategy side that kind of dragged me into that route. And that's probably an area where a lot of, I don't think I've got a lot of imposter syndrome around design. I think for me right now, my struggles right now are more on the brand strategy side. Looking at people that I see as my peers and what they're doing and who they're working with and feeling, wow, I'm not doing that, so who am I to be trying to do this? But then, that can be flipped onto people who are designers as well, who have not been designing that long, and they're or however long it doesn't even matter. You could be a designer for 15 years. You're going to look at someone who's been doing it for 20 years and be like, oh, I wish I could be doing what they're doing. It's when it never seems to be good enough. But I think for me, my dealing with things right now is less the design side, because I'm moving more into more strategy and as a lot of people in the Discord know, because I talk about it a lot, but I've not done it yet, and moving into mentoring myself. There's that pressure of, who am I to mentor? If I'm still dealing with my own imposter syndrome, so who am I to mentor people? What gives me the right to mentor people? If I'm feeling this way sometimes myself. And then, just today, it's like I was speaking to someone and they were just giving me a ton of positive affirmations about all the work that I've done and all the work that I do right now that means I but that I am, a mentor, because I'm already doing it with some people. But there's that thing of, I don't know. And I've been saying in the Discord that, I'm going to start it. I'm just going to start it as an MVP, minimum viable product, and we'll get a test group of people, and we'll just do it. And I do want to do it, but the perfectionism side of me wants it to be perfect. And then they've got the imposter syndrome side of me. It's like, I hope it's good enough. I hope they like it. I hope they learn from it. And it just puts all these barriers in front of you. And kind of what you're waiting on is that sliver of bravery to just start it. And I suppose that's kind of another one of the reasons I'm doing this live stream, is because I know that this imposter syndrome is blocking me from helping people, and I need to break through that. I just need to break through, and I just needed to basically make it public so that I could break through that, so that I'm like, right, it's now out in the open. Let's put it behind you and move forward and do what you're good at and help other people. Help them learn from your experiences and your knowledge and what you've learned over 25 years. So there was kind of, a reason for me to do this, but I knew by doing this stream as well that it would probably help other people, just by talking about it, and being able to kind of see people in the chat going, hey, that's me too, I do that and I think that, and it's such a weird thing, the brain. Nuska saying, I find it especially difficult with people I know and not really my close friends, but acquaintances, old colleagues, etc. If they say something about my work, I get a little anxiety. Yeah, it's weird how we take it. Lisa's saying, that's what I love and hate about doing work for print. There's a point where you simply can't keep thinking about things you could have done better. It's printed and final. Yeah, and and the work, I mean, it's, what is it? not perfect, but done. It's good enough. And it probably, everything that you use probably is good enough. Well, not everything, but we all we can take critique and feedback to always improve on things. But there's a lot of the time we will sweat the small stuff that really doesn't matter. But that, you do 90, 98, 99% of the work and it's good enough, but you will sweat and stress over this 1% that won't really make much of a difference. 99 to 100% is 1%. Moving from 99% to 100% doesn't make it 100% more better than 99%, but we will like chip away at that coal face for ages to try to get that 1% over. So knowing when to stop is a good skill to have, and that's something that you do learn. You go, right, okay, that's good enough. And most things anyway will be reviewed and updated, and that's when you have the opportunity to bring in that thinking that maybe we could have done that. Okay, we can explore that on revision 2, or the 2023 version. We can review that, because for the client it's great. It's just you that's like, oh, that could have been probably better, or I could have done that differently. So just getting to that, it's good enough is something which is helpful. Andrew's saying you do a really good job of bringing people together, so I think that gives you a great opportunity to mentor. I just like kind of doing this sort of stuff. It's nerve-wracking, but again, it's more about it's just. And this is the weird thing, isn't it? Will I in sort of 5-10 years, if I've been doing mentoring for a while, where it becomes natural and I know the right questions to ask, how to dig deeper, how to find out what the real problem is, and then how to, help guide that person to the solution that they probably already know the answer to. And that's the thing, is that I'm not there to provide the answers. You probably already know the answer. It's about having someone to guide you to that answer, so that you have ownership of it. So in 5-10 years, I'm maybe then like, oh, I've got imposter syndrome around mentoring because everything's so natural. Feels like I'm getting paid for nothing, and I think that's a signal of imposter syndrome, is when you feel like you're getting paid for nothing. But then if you said to someone who doesn't do what you do, go and do this thing that I do, what they would come back with would be a complete mess, because what you do is very good, and we just don't, we don't realize that. Andrew's saying your perfection is admired but not required. That's a good one as well. Jeff's saying it's like when you were told when you started, but you will present the information in your way. I've learned so much from you, Call. I'm just trying to learn design and branding for my small business. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm happy to, I've got quite a few people who are business owners. They're not designers, but they're picking up little bits here and there from me in my videos, and it's helping them to kind of strengthen their brand, helping them with their marketing, because they haven't got the budgets to hire people like, marketers or even designers, and they're just trying to do things on their own. So if I can help them do that, then that's great. Lisa's saying you could start the mentoring program this evening, and I'm 100% sure we'd get good value. I always like to think about what's the absolute worst that could happen. Even that is usually not that bad. Yeah, I used to be quite catastrophic thinking. What's the worst that What's the worst that could happen? Okay, I'm prepared for that, so let's go, but that's, I don't want to be thinking what's the worst that can happen. You should be thinking, what's the best outcome? Let's go for that. Let's go for the best outcome. What's the most amazing thing that's going to happen here? And the most amazing thing that's going to happen is the people who I'm mentoring are going to leave with confidence in a specific area that we discussed that day, that we talked about, and they go away and they make a big change to how they do things. That's the best thing that can happen. And I think I just need to be more, that's where I need to be more based in my mindset, rather than, well, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, I'm prepared for that, so now let's do it. But I get what you mean, though. I 100% get what you mean. David's saying, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, is the phrase you're looking for. Yeah, I think there's a few different ones. And Jeff's saying, oh, and I have 10 years on you, you youngster. Well, there you go. So we're a widespread of ages here today. So I'm just going to quickly. I'll give everybody this link here. I'll pop this link into the chat as well. I'll make sure that I update the description of the video on YouTube. So in the description, I will paste these links as well, because I know that sometimes the chat doesn't show in the replays. And so I'll paste these links in as well. Right, so... so this is like 9 ways to deal with imposter syndrome before it hinders your success. So phrases like, I got lucky, I don't belong here, I'm a fraud, and it's just a matter of time before everyone finds out. I've not read this, by the way, but I've got a feeling that a lot of what I've said in the last 50 minutes is probably going to come up. Most of us have experienced feelings of doubt and unworthiness at some point in our lives, but when your accomplishments are a result of your own knowledge, hard work and preparation, and you still feel inadequate, you're probably suffering from imposter syndrome. So that's essentially what we're talking about here today. We're all working really hard, we're all building up our knowledge, and we prepare well and we carry out the work well, and we still don't feel like we're doing enough, or that we're good enough. People who suffer from the syndrome often feel like frauds, despite being smart, skilled, capable professionals who actually deserve whatever commendations and praise they're given. It's weird. It's even weird just reading that, right? So reading, despite being smart, skilled, capable professionals, inside I was actually almost rejecting that, reading that, going, I wouldn't say I'm professional. It's so weird. And then, whatever commendations and praise they're given. So rather than celebrating their accomplishments, they worry that they've somehow tricked people into thinking you've tricked them into thinking you're good enough, but inside you're like, but I'm not. And as a result, they live in fear of being found out or exposed. Imposter syndrome is actually fairly common. Researchers believe that up to 70% of people, 70%, I think it's probably higher, have suffered from it at one point or another, but that doesn't make it any less damaging to a person's confidence and career growth. And this here, confidence is everything that I've been trying to build Rock Your Brand on, is confidence. Not necessarily my own, although, I have got more confidence in certain areas, but helping others with their confidence, because it's something which imposter syndrome, perfectionism, burnout, all that stuff just chips away at your confidence. And that then does affect your career growth, whether that's as someone who wants to run their own freelance business or your career growth inside a company. Imposter syndrome will hinder both sides of that. So let's just quickly go through this. So tip number 1 is to know the signs. And that's sort of what I was talking about, is starting to recognize when you're doing certain things. So if you feel like you've got lucky when you actually prepared well and worked hard, or you find it hard to accept praise, you apologize for yourself when you didn't actually do something wrong. I don't know if I do that. Maybe I do that. You hold yourself to incredibly, sometimes impossibly high standards. Maybe put your hand up if that's you. You find the fear of failure paralyzing. That probably, that's one of the things I was just kind of talking about there, about the mentoring kind of thing, is like, what if I'm crap at it? What if I'm not very good at it? Then it stops you from even trying to do it. You avoid expressing confidence because you think people will see it as overcompensating or obnoxious. So I think for me, I was kind of talking about the ego. You know, you can come, so ego, if you've got a lot of ego, you can come across as being obnoxious, and you're convinced you're not enough. So here it's saying, pay attention to your language choices, both when you're talking to other people and when you're talking to yourself, especially when it comes to talking about work. If you find your own success or the praise others give you uncomfortable, do some reflective thinking on where those types of thoughts come from and what it means in your professional life. So yeah, so that's what I was talking about earlier, is, you know, you have to kind of, if you knock away comment, like positive feedback and comments, you have to then kind of speak to yourself and go, why did I do that? Why didn't I just accept that praise? Why did I push it away? What is it that's making me think that? And then if you start going, oh, it's because my work's not good enough, you then have to go to the next level and say, well, is it not good enough? Why do I think it's not good enough? You know, and you just have to analyze it all, because when you come out the other end of it, you'll realize, as I can't remember who it was that said it, you'll realize that it's total bollocks and that you're just telling yourself stories that aren't true. David said the best thing about imposter syndrome is that it makes you work that wee bit harder. Damn right it does. And you know, and quite often we don't need to have worked that wee bit harder, because all we're doing is running ourselves into the ground. But that's very true. That's a t-shirt slogan there, I think. Jenkins saying that he's guilty of so many of these things. Know that you're not alone. When you have imposter syndrome, some of the most important encouragement comes from realizing how many hugely successful people, both male and female, have built amazing careers even while regularly coping with it. Which highly accomplished people have spoken about their imposter syndrome? Here are some quotes from the New York Times. I've written 11 books, but each time I think, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody, and they're going to find me out. And that was Maya Angelou. And I think I've got 2 quotes in my brand workshop that I deliver to sort of incubator groups, like business incubator groups, and I do like a 90-minute session on what is a brand, and kind of tell them, you know, what makes up a brand, and obviously by starting off by saying it's not your logo. And I've got 2 quotes in there from Maya Angelou, so that's really interesting that she thinks she's going to get found out, because, wow. All I can see is everything I'm doing wrong that is a sham and a fraud, and that's Don Cheadle. That's crazy as well. I think what's he in the Marvel movies? What's the name of, not Iron Man, is it Iron Patriot? I think he's in the Iron Patriot armor. The beauty of the imposter syndrome is you vacillate between extreme egomania and a complete feeling of, oh, I'm a fraud, oh God, they're onto me, I'm a fraud. So you just try to ride the egomania when it comes and enjoy it, and then slide through the idea of fraud. That's Tina Fey. 3, you need to distinguish humility and fear. There's taking humility in your hard work and accomplishments, and then there's feeling overcome with fear because of them. Sometimes simply being good at something can cause it to discount its value. But as Carl Richards wrote, after spending a lot of time fine-tuning our ability, isn't it sort of the point for our skill to look and feel natural? That's what I was talking about earlier on. You know, it's that thing of, we spent so much time getting good at what we do that we forget that, and we think that because something's so natural to do that we need to work harder, or we need to make it more difficult because it's too easy. And then that's where the stresses and the pressures come in. It all boils down to feeling unworthy. I like how Seth Godin put it in his blog post. If you don't read Seth Godin's blog or any of his books, then you should. Seth's a great writer. When you feel unworthy, any kind response, positive feedback or reward feels like a trick, a scam, the luck of the draw. And that's, you know, probably one of the reasons that we're like kind of batting it away, because we don't feel like it's genuine. But it is possible to feel worthy without feeling entitled, and overcoming imposter syndrome is all about finding a healthy balance between the two. Gordon goes on to write, humility and worthiness have nothing at all to do with defending our territory. We don't have to feel like a fraud to also be gracious, open, or humble. And I think that's really good. I think, I definitely could be better at that. I don't know about if I'll be able to be good at number 4, though. Let go of your inner perfectionist. I recently wrote about how perfectionism, while helpful in certain contexts, can be a major roadblock for productivity. Turns out it can be a major roadblock for overcoming imposter syndrome too. Oh, that's good news. Not. Many people who suffer from imposter syndrome are high achievers, people who set extremely high standards for themselves and are committed to doing their best and being the best. But perfectionism only feeds into your imposter syndrome. When you feel like a fraud, it's usually because you're comparing yourself to some perfect outcome that's either impossible or unrealistic. Not only can no one do everything perfectly, but holding yourself to that standard can actually be super counterproductive. At some point, you need to take a step back and ask yourself, when is good enough good enough? And then there's a blog there to see what formula for good enough might look like. So I think I'll probably have a look at that myself. Bottom line, while striving for perfection is certainly noble, it's usually not realistic. And often it's counterproductive and will only make you feel more like a fraud. So that's why I think perfectionism just ties in so closely to imposter syndrome, which then ties in so closely to burnout. Be kind to yourself. This is something I think people find difficult to do as well. Take the pressure off yourself and stop trying to be the expert on day one. Guilty of that, advises Jennifer Stefanchik. Imposter syndrome often manifests itself as a voice in our heads, berating us with negative messages like you're not smart enough or you're a fraud. Negative self-talk is a bad habit, and it can heavily influence our stress and anxiety levels. Being kind to yourself simply means changing the way you talk to yourself in your head by practicing positive self-talk. Not only can it help you become less stressed and anxious, but it can help you help you to build courage to do things that will bring you greater rewards. Now, for a little while, I used to have I've got this book here. Let me just jump back to the chat because it'll be a bigger thing. So I've got this book. Oh, everything's going to go out of focus. Called "Good Things Are Happening," and it's basically just it's an empty. It's just my camera. I have to have my camera on auto lock focus, or it goes a bit weird. So there's pages in there, and it's just like today's 3 moments of joy. And that's all it is. It's just like lots of pages of 3 moments of joy. And that could be something as simple as I didn't burn my toast, or I didn't put a tea bag in my coffee. Some days you're going to have amazing moments of joy, but it's about just finding the little things, because at the end of the day, what we can often do is pick out all the negative stuff. Oh, that didn't go well today, or that was shit, or I wish, this is going to be a nightmare tomorrow. And so this is just a little, and it's got kind of just fun little things like, peeling an orange in one continuous strip. See if I can find a couple of other ones. When a new season of your favorite show is available for streaming. Just like, things that kind of make you smile, to make you realize that, things aren't always, well, this one's for me, definitely, having leftover pizza for breakfast. So, it seems like a simple thing, a book called Good Things Are Happening, but there's lots of different books like this that you basically, you'll see people who write gratitude lists, so 10 things I'm grateful for. I did that for a little while as well. At the start, you do some at the start and some at the end of the day, things I'm grateful for. And I'll be honest, at this, when someone suggested that to me, I was like, I just felt it was nonsense. And I actually struggled with it. I struggled to find the gratitudes. I felt like it was hard work. But I started to do it, and one of the things that I started to do was I started to, actually on my YouTube channel, some of you might know that I did a 100-day challenge, record a video every single day for 100 days, just to get better at being on camera. And I'm pretty sure during that, I was doing gratitudes. And on some of those videos, I would just hit record and just, talk about the things that I was grateful for that day. And it's essentially what it's just saying here, by writing down, by the act of physically writing down, not just saying them, but writing down positive affirmations and good things that are happening, I couldn't really believe it myself, but I did start to feel more positive about stuff. But I fell out of the habit of doing it. And even just the act of picking this book up, and maybe even holding myself accountable to everyone who's watching this and everyone in the Discord, and saying, right, I'm going to start filling this in again. I'm going to start filling in the good things that are happening. And it has a positive impact on the way that you speak to yourself and how you see your days going, because it's very easy, the negative things can very easily overpower the positive things. It was like that when I used to DJ. If I had 400 people in the nightclub and it was an amazing night and everybody was dancing, it was really busy, if one person came over at the end of the night and said, oh, you didn't play this song, or that sucked, that would be all I would think about. Not the 399 people who had an amazing time. My brain would focus on, oh, I didn't make it a good night for everyone, and that's the perfectionism thing again. And it's impossible to, make it a great night for everyone, because there's always that one person who's always, they've only had a good night if they get a chance to complain about something. So once you start to go into that mindset, I go, well, they're now happier because they've been able to complain and have a moan at me. So that's now 400 people who are happy. You change the way that you think about situations. You start to turn it on its head from being a negative situation into, actually, no, that's a good thing. This is a positive thing. So yeah, sorry to kind of jump off onto that. I just felt that was kind of something to talk about there. Let's catch up on the chat. So Jenkins has just said you should try writing in that book there, Cole. Yeah, I know. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to start doing that. David's saying reheated kebab is the king of breakfast. I don't reheat it. Cold for me. Hey, Henry. I think you've just joined, have you? I think you might find this interesting if you watch the replay on this one. Rob's saying, I'm grateful for every day I get to relax with the kids, because if this crypto market stays this way, I'll be back in my truck next month. Yeah, you just got to be grateful for what you have. And Jeff saying, today I remembered the live stream on time. That's a pretty good achievement for me. See, that would go into your good things are happening book. And David said, I know those complainers call. I remember playing a Leonard Cohen song at a gig and being criticised by someone afterward for emitting an off. People will complain about the slightest things, and it can heavily impact you. It depends on what mindset you're in. You could either just shrug it off, or you'll take it like a knife to the heart. And I know that we can all feel that way. The designers anyway can feel that way. When you've put a lot into a design, and a little comment here or there can seem quite vicious, but it's just a passing comment. It's not meant to be anything like really bad. So let's see. Yeah, so that's about positive language. And here, so this is the bit that I found. So psychologists have found that repeating affirmations like this can improve stress and anxiety levels, perhaps because these positive statements build a bridge into your subconscious mind. So I think I believe that. Oh, there's me saying I think again. From my experience of doing the affirmations, that happened to me. I just felt more positive. Track and measure your successes. So another thing which I think is very undervalued, When you feel like an imposter, one of the hardest things to grasp is how much of a role you have in your own successes. You might default them to luck or others' hard work, when in fact your own work, knowledge, and preparation had a lot to do with it. To help show yourself that you're actually doing well, keep track of your wins in a private document. There are a lot of different ways to track these successes, and the metrics you use will depend entirely on your job. If you're a blogger, you might keep track of your posts monthly. If you're a blogger, you might keep track of your posts' monthly average, page views, and watch them go up, or compare them to the team average. You might also keep a separate tab to paste kind words people have written to you via email. So I used to do that for my YouTube channel. I remember thinking, if I get to 100 subscribers, that'll be amazing, mind-blowing. And then you reach 100, and then you're like, oh, I need to get to 1,000. And when you get to 1,000, I need to get to 10,000. And then from 10,000, it's like, oh, I need to get to 100,000. I want that silver play button. It's it's never good enough. You're always, and you look at other people. So when I was on 100 and I was looking at people at 1,000 going, oh, it must feel amazing to have 1,000. But then that person's already looking to the 10. And it's about, you need to kind of learn to live in the moment, I think, and enjoy where you're at with it. I was fixated. I used to look at my YouTube statistics all the time to see how many subscribers I was, were growing each day. And if I'd lost, because people leave and unsubscribe from channels all the time. But when the growth slows, you're like, oh, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Now I don't really pay attention. People will ask me how many subscribers do I have, and I now actually have to go and look. Back then, I would be able to tell you to the hour exactly how many subscribers I had. But I realized, that, to be honest, the subscriber count doesn't really matter, because not all of those people, I know how I am on YouTube. I'll like videos and I'll subscribe to some people's channels and probably never watch another video on their channel again. So it's kind of a misleading number to have there. It'll be a fraction of the amount of people that actually come back regularly. And those are the people that I focus on. Those are the people that I create the content for, the ones who are genuinely interested in it. But at the same time, new people find me all the time. And I get comments. I get comments every day on my videos. I used to be able to answer them all, and I loved being able to go in and answer them all. But I've not been able to do that recently because I've just been so busy. And sometimes you're just like, oh, I've not done it for so long that there's going to be so many that I'm going to have to answer, and that kind of puts you off as well. But keeping track on things can show, how you're growing. But the kind words one is something which I think is everyone should keep. And that's, just if someone says something on the phone, gives you kind words on the phone or whatever, just make a note of that, so that when you're having a tough time of it, you can go and look at these things and go, look, this is what people really think of what I do, because you're maybe telling yourself that you suck and you can't do it. And, who are you to be doing this or be in this position or in this role in the company? Or maybe a role's opened up in the company and you're not going to apply for it because you don't think you're good enough. Then being able to go to a document that has a lot of affirmations of what people have said about how good you are and stuff will give you the confidence to go, you know what, I am bloody good enough to do this. I'm going to apply for that position because I know I can do it. But if you don't have that document to remind yourself of what people have said, you're not going to remember in your head because you're just, you'll forget it. So definitely keep track of these sorts of things. It can just be a Google Doc. It doesn't have to be anything like amazing. Talk about it with a mentor and your manager. No one should suffer in silence. Sharing your thoughts and experiences with someone else will make you better equipped to deal with your imposter syndrome. We recommend sharing them with both a mentor and your direct manager. Your mentor will be able to help you talk candidly about your struggles with imposter syndrome while giving you a more objective point of view. And that's why I'm doing this, is because I want people to know that I have an understanding of what they're going through. It's not something that I've just read from books. I can empathize and talk about techniques and stuff that I'm using for myself. especially if they work on a different team or at a different company. When you share your experience with them, you might ask if they've ever felt that way or if they know someone who has. The best mentors are forthcoming about the struggles that they've gone through and the mistakes they've made in their careers, and you may find that they have some helpful stories or advice for how to deal with what you're feeling. So yeah, I think I'm already been doing that. I think I've done this kind of thing on a few live streams. I've talked about my journey, my career, the ups and downs, that it doesn't always go right, and live streams like this. We'd also suggest that you talk to your direct manager about your experiences too. Why? Because they're more likely to have the knowledge and tools to help you to overcome your imposter syndrome in the context of your current job. I could see that being quite scary though, depending on the type of manager that you have. You know, some might not be that approachable, but I think maybe that's why it recommends you have a mentor as well, because the mentor would be able to help guide you and give you the confidence to go and have that discussion. I don't think you'd be able to do that on your own. You would probably just avoid having that conversation. For example, you might ask them to help you find a system for tracking your successes or figure out which metrics you should measure. Knowing what they know about both you and your role, they may also help you seek out more opportunities to shine and gain visibility on your team or at your company in general. Finding a mentor or manager to talk to is a strategy that Crystal Wu, HubSpot's social media manager, highly recommends. I've learned the best way to deal with imposter syndrome was to find a mentor to help guide me through my career choices. As an example, I was new to my social community role and to marketing, and I wanted to do my best work, but I didn't know what that meant all the time. When I put myself out there to find people in roles similar to mine, attended events to learn more about industry and learn from my mentor, it helped me gain confidence. The more confidence and education I had, the more the imposter syndrome started to fade. And this is where confidence is the key word for me. If you have the confidence, you'll do a lot more things. You'll be a lot more brave. I won't say it's completely gone, because let's be real, I'm always learning. But it's not something hanging over my head all the time. It comes and goes, and I know that surrounding myself with people that are more knowledgeable in my field has helped me grow. So it's surround yourself with the right people to help you. Say yes to new opportunities. That's kind of, self-explanatory, because I'm careful of the time here. And embrace the feeling and use it. It's really hard to get rid of imposter syndrome completely. I don't think you could ever get rid of it completely, especially if you've had it for years and years. The fact that hugely successful people like Maya Angelou and Don Cheadle feel that way after all they've accomplished is evidence that it can sometimes be a lifelong condition. That's why the best angle from which to tackle your imposter syndrome isn't getting rid of it completely, it's stopping it from hindering your success. And then there's a link through to that. So, so obviously, imposter syndrome is a big topic, and and can be quite debilitating for people. I wouldn't say it's not debilitating for me, but it does put up barriers and blocks. And I think for just the past 3 or 4 weeks, it's lessened my motivation to do things. It kind of sucks the joy out of any of the good work that you do. And as I mentioned as well, it's like, I'm not doing the work I'm doing for clients isn't lessened. It's kind of almost like David said, I'm actually working harder on it, but it's kind of an unnecessary working harder. It's not needed, because I know that I'm doing good work and I'm doing it to the best of my abilities. The do it better part is the bit that was talked about, is the perfectionist part that really is kind of unachievable, and all you're doing is tiring yourself out. And I have felt, one thing that I stopped going to the gym a few months ago as well, just so busy and just lots of other things. But I know that there's a combination of things. There's a combination of like the imposter syndrome, the pressures of work, and kind of because I'm in this sort of transition phase of my thinking of moving from being, mostly 100% design, and and I'll include brand strategy sort of in that a little bit, but then moving over to being more of a brand strategist and a mentor, I'm sort of in this halfway place, and the imposter syndrome is putting up barriers of fear to stop me making that move, because I don't think I'm good enough to exist in that role, to move away from design as my income, as my main source of income, into strategy and mentoring being a source of income. Imposter syndrome saying, nah, you're not good enough for that. You're doing brand strategy and stuff because you've lucked into it. It's only because you've been doing design that you've done this, and you're only doing mentoring because you've done some YouTube videos and people are listening to you. So there's all of that kind of negative talk going on. But what I will say is just doing this live stream, speaking to you guys, has helped me to kind of see that, I knew that I wasn't alone in this, which is why I'm doing this. But it's the affirmation thing of hearing other people saying, I think that way too. And all that does, hearing people say that they feel that way too, all that does is it gives me more determination and drive to want to help those people. So, this is where for me, live streaming and doing these, and there are weeks where I can't face it. I mean, even today I was like, oh, I could easily just put this off because I'm not feeling at my best. I'm really not feeling at my best at all. But I was like, no, I'm going to do this because this is the best time to be doing this. And I'll only beat myself up if I don't do it. If 7 o'clock passed and I hadn't gone live, I would have beaten myself up about that, saying, "No, you should have done it." So yeah, I just want to, thank everybody for coming on. Thank you to everyone who said, that and being open to say that, they do feel that way. And just to say that you're not alone. Didn't really talk about burnout much, but burnout's pretty self-explanatory. It's just you put so much pressure on yourself that you become so tired and so stressed that you essentially just break down, and you can't do anything. And it's a danger. Burnout can be super dangerous, and we need to try to limit that happening, because it it can affect you for a long time. It's not you don't like burn out for a day or two. You burn out for months, and you could burn your way out of your career because you just can't face going back to it. So I'd rather be a preventative measure for people, that they never ever reach that stage. I mean, we've talked about here already that imposter syndrome, it's unlikely to go away, but you can manage it, and you can understand when it's kind of speaking, in your ear, and you can kind of control it and use it for a positive effect, rather than let it lead you to burnout. Let's see here. Andrew's saying affirmations link neurons in your brain. It's like practicing a skill. It's a way to build bridges in things you previously had a hard time with. Yeah, so it's just that. Yeah, the repetition of it all just means your brain goes, okay, this is happening all the time, so let's make a shortcut so that it's easier to remember that thing or do that thing. So yeah, it makes perfect sense the more you do it. I mean, that's why kids learn stuff a lot easier than adults, I believe. That their brains are more malleable. They probably rewire a bit quicker. The older you get, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can. It just takes a lot more time to do it. Gene's saying, I'm a trademark attorney and I'm in the top 1% in terms of trademarks registered over the last 5 years and would love to help you register your trademarks. I already have them registered, Gene. Thanks for asking, though. But there may be other people in the chat that are looking for that. So I'm sure that they can maybe just search your name and have a look. It's great to have you on the stream. Thanks for joining. Lisa's saying, so you could officially count yourself among the best mentors already. Or is that based on what they're saying in this article? I'll try to take that. I'll take that compliment on board. I won't bat it away. I will be. I'll use it as a positive affirmation. I will write it down. I'll go back. I'll go back through this and I'll write that stuff down. I really appreciate that. David saying, do you think your recent office move is amplifying that voice of doubt you talk about? I think to a certain extent, the recent office move was a source of procrastination. I said I was doing it to give myself more space to do more YouTube videos. But again, it's perfectionism. Got to have the right space. Got to have the right setup. Got to do that. But the way I've laid out the new office, I've really kind of given myself the same size of spaces that I had in the other office. So I don't know that it's amplifying the voice of doubt. I mean, I love the new space, and it will be good for video, but I think it was a sense of, I think it was just me procrastinating and putting things off again. Lee's saying, you said you've gone through burnout. Is there anything you'd want to share about getting out of it? I'll be honest, I can't really remember much of it. I was just so like dead in the water about it all. I'd probably have to sit down and really think about that and kind of put some notes together. And so that's probably something that we can discuss in the Discord. We'll probably have like an Ask Me Anything session in the Discord about that. Because I'll need to have a wee think about that one. Because it was a while ago now, but it was not great. It wasn't great at all. And I do know of a couple of other people who've been through burnout, and I'll ask them if they're willing to maybe come into the AMA and have a chat about it as well, because I'm pretty sure it'll all be similar experiences. And I know that at least one of them will probably be happy to have a chat about it. Jeff saying, if you weren't good enough, we wouldn't have been listening to you right now. This is true. I very much appreciate all the time and effort to help and teach us. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate the kind comments as well. Jenkins saying, I'm in the heaviest stage of burnout in my career right now. Any words of wisdom or a healthy beating would certainly help. Jenkins, we can have a chat later. We'll organise just to have a chat about it all. But I've noticed, Jenkins is in another Discord group. Jenkins and I know one another because we're both NFT fanatics. But right now, I think Jenkins, you got half an hour sleep last night. So that's a good sign of burnout's weird because it sounds like you're going to be sleeping all the time, but it's actually the opposite. Your brain just does not shut off. That was my experience anyway. And you just lie there and you're so tired, but your brain is just constantly going at you, and it's just it's horrible. It's so bad. But that's the perfectionism and the imposter syndrome. And it just all talking around and swimming around in your head. It just doesn't give you the time to switch off. And that's where, that's the dangerous side of it, is that, we need sleep. And if you don't get it, then it can be, it's the health issues can be pretty complex. So it's important. So we'll organise something, Jenkins, and we'll have a chat about that. So, I think we'll call it a day there. Thanks so much for listening in. We had more viewers than normal. I'm just looking at the stats there. We had more viewers join in, and pretty much everybody stayed. When I look at my stats for the live streams, people come and go. They'll come and go, but this one shows me that I probably made the right decision to let's say bite the bullet and actually talk about this, because I was very nervous about it and I wasn't sure if this was the right thing to do. I was going to maybe try and duck out of it and only talk about it in the Discord, but I was like, nah, I want to talk about this here. So, but look, there's big words there, So Lee's paused a movie night for it. She paused movie night to come and join this. That's what more can I ask? What more can I ask? So thanks very much, everyone. I really appreciate it. anyone who's joined late, or then you can watch the live stream. It'll be up. It shouldn't be too long. It takes time to process in the background. I think a kind of a low quality video version goes up straight away, but then a high res version goes up afterwards. But we weren't showing that many visuals today, so it's not really too bad. And to anyone who has watched this as the replay, thank you so much. I appreciate the time that you've dedicated to listening to me and listening to the questions that the people who are here on the live stream have been asking. So, as ever, have a good one. Don't be too perfectionist. And until I see you next time, stay creative, and let's see if the outro music works. You can tell me in the live chat. Bye for now, folks.